sometimes, you're a little disconnected from the reality in the world until you meet someone and you hear their story, and then it's real. And I think that's what we all need sometimes, And so for me, it was really moving to hear your story, which I'll now pause my lengthy intro and let you share, your story,
The journey.
your journey.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't really know where to start, really. Yeah, I'm born in diehard Chinese, although I moved away from China now it's like 22, 23 years ago. I left like 2001. Yeah, it's quite a while. But yes, Chinese. I mean, how we grow up. I think that day when we met, when I had a presentation, I also mentioned a bit of my background to link the story together, how I actually entered into the commodity, now space mining field. But I born in early 80s. That is in the Z most tight one-child policy. It's just the starting of one-child policy. And it is very rare that I have younger sister, just a year younger than me. But actually, my parents was not able to raise both kids, and I raised with my grandmother in Shanghai. So, and the fine for a young couple like my parents at that time was quite severe because my dad had to pay like 14 years fine, and because he worked for a state-owned company, so he was not able to have holidays. So I don't really see them. I mean, see them like, I think my first memory I had is seeing them like when I was 4 or 5. They traveled to Shanghai to visit my grandparents, and it's the first time in my memory that I actually associate that I have parents. Like I'm not like, I always feel like I'm different because everyone else have parents and I live with my grandmother, right? So I think that's the first time when I see my mom, I feel there's like similarities, on the face, how we looked. But it was like, it imprinted on me so much, yeah. As you know, it's approaching to my birthday, and I was just like digging some old photos, and I found it's amazing in a way. It's like a miracle that how I get where I am and become who I am. Because when I was born, I had some, at that time they don't even know what is it. Just the spine was not able to close. So I was born in northern China, right? So it's like close to Siberia. So my dad took me to the local clinic, but they didn't understand what's that disease. They thought my parents were like from close family. Then sometimes you have like, disabled babies. But actually my parents, one from north and one from Shanghai, that cannot be more further away. And they just couldn't. So one of the night, the doctor told my mom that I would not survive for long because they just couldn't cure it. So one of the night when I went to, my mom took me to the hospital and bumped into an old lady and say that, my grandson had something similar. Why don't you get a piece of pork meat, but it need to be fresh and fatty, and just put it on the wound, and it might help to heal. And at that time in China, that was a planned economy. There was no even places to get fresh pork meat. So my mom borrowed like a frozen meat, but defrozen them with the fat and put it on the wound, like literally a few days after, then the things come out and the wound really healed,
Really?
Yeah, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know what it was called that you had?
The disease itself, I can't pronounce the medical name, but it's actually not uncommon where, maybe.
Can I say it in Mandarin?
它就是脊椎这边没有办法。
Okay, we'll Google it.
Yeah. Yes, we can Google it. So it's not actually uncommon that when my mom was pregnant with me with lack of necessary nutrition, maybe didn't take the necessary vitamin, and so the spine didn't close properly, and it was like keeping running out some kind of like liquid and all this was, I was going through a lot of pain clearly. So yeah, but that's a miracle. I'm where I am.
That's incredible. Okay, so you're a miracle baby,
Thank you.
and then your sister's born,
Yeah,
and your parents, like good parents, you know, they love you both, and
Yeah.
so they sacrifice themselves basically.
yeah,
And so you live with your grandma.
yeah.
You grew up with your grandma, and then how do you go from there to, like, what happens from there? Like, how did you become the Julie that is such a visionary? Like, what were your influences, or were you just naturally this way?
Oh, certainly not. I look at some of my old photos. I think I was kind of shy and uncertain and trying to just be fitting into this wild world. I think that's like what my parents did was very, very typical Chinese family, right? They will do everything they can to provide a better life for the kids, but sometimes they also sacrifice the time they could spend with the kids. And even right now in China, you see a lot of young couples just move to the big cities for work, for having better income to raise a family, but then they don't get time spent with the kids. The kids left in the with the grandparents and all these. That is quite actually common. So I grew up with my grandmom, and my grandmom is a very, very tough lady, and she, after even she retired, she go back to work, and it's really just taught me that, you know, how to be a very, very independent and how to really survive, because at that time in China, I think because things change so fast and it's a country very prone to have policies changes, and I think there is also a growing insecureness in my grandparents. That's also why my grandmom continued to work. So I studied mechanical engineering in Shanghai, and then I had the opportunity to went abroad. That's where I went to Switzerland to finish my undergraduate, and I didn't realize I was step in the center of commodity really.
Wow.
That's where I started. With the commodity. Obviously, I grew up in the environment. We understand that why the government implemented one-child policy was because they were feared with overpopulation that we will not have enough food to feed everyone, right? We don't have enough resources. So the resource is such critical matters, and that impact entire generation and not just my family. Actually, my entire generation, there's a few very, very famous movies, and one of them is called Think Debt, basically bad debts, right?
Yeah.
So it was saying that the kids grow up where their parents there is a Down syndrome program. So the Chinese government at that time in the Mao was encourage all the young kids from the city to go to urban area, to go to rural area to support. But once you go there, they will take your entire ID with you. So like my dad went to the north, but his entire ID taken away, moved to the north. It means he can never go back to Shanghai, because at that time you don't have social security, you don't have all these, so you have to stay in the north. That's where he married with my mom, and I was born. But then the policy change said that anyone who has not married can go back. So my dad obviously couldn't go back. But some of the couple, in order for them to go back, so one of the spouse were to tell the other, said, I go back, but once I settle, I will take you guys back. But then they never took them back. So in my generation, there is like millions of kids, when they got to teenage, they went to the big Chinese city like Shanghai or Guangzhou or Beijing, looking for their father or mother. So that's the movie about. And then it presents that with the background in China, that there is just so much like policy driven and things like from one day to another could be totally different. So I think there is quite a lot of insecureness, and the resource is like a really, really important topic, right? So when I went into Switzerland, when I realized I was in the center of the commodity, because like they're all mega commodity trading house there, because of banking support, because low interest rate, and so on and so forth. So that's how I entered one of the largest commodity trading house. And then I started my commodity career for like 2 decades. And the work itself obviously is very, very exciting. But the fact that I know that resource is not something just good to have, it's every country must to have, and it has like this significance. I think I grew into my role, and obviously it was never easy to work in a very, very male-dominated environment. We don't just trade a screen and buy and sell. Also involved me to travel to really, really challenging area. So we tend to go to like Congo, go to Zambia.
Really?
It's not so dramatic like Blood Diamond, but it's similar.
Still,
that you
I
go there,
understand.
right? You really need to negotiate with the local mines to bring the mineral out, while the price of this mineral is changing every second because you have to exchange. So by the time the material get to the port, the price could go either direction. And then people can like bail out, not perform. So how you make sure you cover these kind of risk, right? And every cargo is worth like millions of dollars. So there's a lot of pressure, and then you need to bond with local people very, very fast, right? You need to gain the trust. And also along the way of the shipment, everything could go wrong. So I think being a successful commodity trader is to be able to solve the problem and to just get things done and resolve the challenges and mitigate the risk. So I saw the entire whole commodity boom, but also I see the very, very dark side, right? Whenever I go to traveling, you go to a mine place where there's really, really polluted. A lot of babies was born in the way that even disformatted because the toxin and the pollution in the community. There's obviously no trees, like the noise, the dust. And I would feel like there must be some other solution to it. And so when I done with my commodity, I built my own company and managed to sell it, then I'm like, okay, what is next? There need to be an answer to that. And that's where I get connected with the space mining.
Amazing. Okay, so I have questions on that, but I first have questions about what did you learn about mitigating risk? Like what did you discover throughout your career about mitigating risk? And then also, just maybe you can teach us some technique on how you connected with the locals and, just teach us your ways.
I think that's actually a very very, very distinguished power as the not very few female on the forefront of the physical commodity trading, because as a female you have very, very strong intuition.
Yes.
And you really observe through details, right? Also, I think the very, very important way to gain the trust is actually to deliver what you say and not overpromise. And I think we as women, we tend to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And we also very, very grounded. I wouldn't never feel comfortable to like oversell something that I cannot deliver. And I think then that's built up your reputation. And also in a way, I also work to my advantage, right? For example, that yes, I'm a petite girl, go there. People don't feel that you are. They're not so guarded in this. Exactly. So it's also easier for me to understand the insight, to get the information as well. And all these are extremely helpful. All these helped, right? And also at the end, you also have to drink because a lot of times you go to all these mines. Particularly many countries in Asia and particularly China, you go there, people tend to be quite reserved. They need alcohol to be able to open up. And if you don't drink the alcohol, people feel you're not sincere. Even I was not able to drink a lot, but I have the courage to drink. And that also helped to open up the counterparty to start sharing. Otherwise, in a business environment, everybody is so guarded, and that's definitely helped. So there is some tactical side, but also I think there is naturally, as a female, I have natural advantage on the road to see what's going on, to be grounded, to deliver what I say, and slowly to build up my reputation. I think that's crucial.
That's amazing. That's a really good point too. Okay, so you have this successful career in commodity trading, and then from there, like share with us the jump. How did you get into astro mining? And maybe you could just explain, because not everyone's gonna. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory, but not really. But it's literally mind-blowing.
Thank you. So while I was still trading commodity, obviously I worked with a lot of major mines. And one of the issue, apart from the entire pollution and, you think about nowadays, like the mine grades has really deteriorated. Like 20 years, you have the mineral grades around like 2-3%. Now it's like below 1%. So it needs to dig deeper and deeper. And you think about nowadays how crazy it is. Like we are moving entirely to the world of AI, and yet the mining industry is still stuck like 50, 60 years ago.
Ages.
Absolutely, right? You're still like sending people down and dig out all the rocks and then crush, grinding, process them to get these 0.5 to 1% mineral. And just thinking about the waste, but also, I mean, miners are one of the most dangerous job, right? You still have like 15,000 people every year die of these mine accidents.
Really?
Yeah. So I think at one point, with all the mines, I also realized they need certain automation. Obviously, there are certain machinery automation, but by far they cannot get to the degree that eliminate human enter into the whole deep mining, right? And that's where you really want to achieve. So in that conjunction, I met a company who is focused on astro mining. But they have developed these robotics where they need to test in a very, very extreme environment. Obviously, the traditional mining environment will most be suitable. So somehow they connect with me, and I help them to make the connection to the mining world. And initially, I would thought that it's just science fiction until I step in and realize, holy cow, this is like entire whole world, but people or normal people just didn't realize, because it's not something you get linked with in a day-to-day life, right? You might hear some big news like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson, but by far, actually, the industry is evolved so much, particularly during COVID time. Like, what is most important during COVID time while everyone is locked down? You want to be connected with your loved ones, right? But you cannot imagine in the Earth planet, the data coverage is only less than 20%. The other 80% has no data. When you are in the maritime, in the Amazon, in the mountain, they just have very, very little coverage. And that's why you require a satellite to provide these coverage. And this satellite is almost like already a mature business in the new space. And then people start talking about like they really building the space station, right? And the space station not just for asteroid, but actually it provides a self-spin and generate gravity. So you and me as common people can live in the space station. And once you have a permanent job, it means that person needs everything, need medical care, need food, need entertainment, and that's where things all happens, right? And why the space could take off in such a big way? Because we have something fundamentally shift. First is travel cost from the Earth to space has reduced like 99.995%. In the next 4 or 5 years, I'll be no surprise that we will be able to travel to the space at the price of business class ticket.
Really?
Yeah, that's happening.
Wow.
And the secondly is privatization. So a lot of, before everything was controlled by the government,
Yeah.
but with achieved in SpaceX and some other private company, now the space agency more like a client of the space companies and lending out a contract. So that helped another boom. And then the United States announced the space law, which protect ownership. So if you imagine the sending out the rocket is like, at that time they built up the cross-continental railway.
Yeah.
And then with abundant labor force at that time in the East, with the cross-continental railway, they published some law, say it's a US Home Act, said that anyone travel from East to the West and build a home and you can claim the ownership of the land. And that boosts everyone from East to the West, and that's where you have the California today. Yeah. And the same thing, right now with the rocket launch, one can go to the space, right? A particular private companies. And if you can have the rights to explore certain material, minerals out there and claim ownership, and that's massive, and that's why you see all the billionaires going there, right? And with all the development, it's inevitable that the resource out there will help us to build whatever we need in the space. But also, looking back on Earth, we just covered that mining cost is very high, very, very polluted, and it's very extremely dangerous and all this, right? So I think slowly you will see a lot of, eventually, the heavy industry will move into space, but slowly, maybe right now, if we mine from asteroid or from the moon, I think the temporary solution is a mineral bring back to the Earth, but the long-term solution is actually we build the entire infrastructure and manufacturing, and actually the heavy industry were happening there instead on the Earth. Yeah. So I think that is basically long-term goal, and yes, space mining belongs to the deep tech, but it's extremely like the exponential wealth. When we talk about just one asteroid belt, they contain like 7 quintillion US dollars. So divided by 7 billion people, everyone still will have a 10 billion worth of natural resources. Wow. And the whole thing is, right, if right now there is no platform for people like you and me to access this market, in the sense that if you as a private individual, if you want to invest into space mining, there's not really vehicle possible, right? Because if you want to invest in venture fund, the ticket size is very, very large. Right. I'm actually right now exploring with crypto through DAO, like a decentralized economic organization, where that you can move a lot of middle layer, and then basically to allow normal people to invest rather than 200,000, like 2,000 US dollars into space mining. Because space mining, as soon as you touch the resource, it matters for everyone. But the vast majority of people doesn't have access to it. And it's only very few billionaires have access to that. Yeah. Can you imagine right now, even the most richest person, they might have 100 billion assets. But compared to the large global GDP, it's still okay. I mean, it's still a relative proportion. But if once someone accesses space mining, that wealth will be so disproportionate from the rest. Can you imagine the whole world is controlled by 1 or 2 people because their wealth is disproportionate? It's disproportionate. Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking that using tokenization might be a good way to address that. Yeah. Yeah. Who's doing it? Who are you? Are you working with anybody to do that? I'm actually right now in the phase of seeking the right partner to work with. Okay, okay. I'm not trying to like sell our services or anything, but I would encourage you to have a conversation with Master Ventures. Yeah. Because that's what they do. Okay. They have an incubator. Yeah. So the audience knows already, but so I was like the original CMO, right, for them.
But what Master Ventures does is they're like Y Combinator.
Yeah.
They help products come to market, but in the
Sure.
crypto world.
Mm-hmm.
And one of their strong suits, Kyle's one of his primary strong suits is that this is his art, tokenization.
Yeah.
The design of inflow, outflow, of value. And making sure that the incentive model for keeping the value within the DAO, the decentralized autonomous organization, stays within.
Yeah.
And it allows it to grow, right? Because for however much you sell, right, when people buy in, like what mechanisms are you going to use to make sure they don't cash out completely, right? Or like maybe they can gain capital gains by staking or burning some of their tokens, right? Which then you use to buy more of your own token back off the market, which increases your value, but then it's distributed to your community. Like this is his art. So I would just encourage you at least to have a conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because also Master Ventures is really, really connected.
Anyway, that's super, super interesting. Okay, so many questions running through my brain as you're talking. Well, I guess one of the most obvious ones, and it's a concern, maybe it's very basic, but with all the mining that we're doing on Earth now, it's a two-part question, okay? With all the mining that we're doing on Earth now, and deeper and deeper we're going, are we at risk of like breaking the Earth? That sometimes concerns me, right? Because you hear about like, what do they call it, like there's fracking happening, and sometimes like all of a sudden there's a sinkhole and leaves go down. Like, I know you probably know so much about this, but like, are we like, how grave is humanity's risk if we don't stop mining?
I think if one has a choice, would absolutely choose to not mine, and if we could just satisfy recycling, but as current technology, because recycling also consume a lot of energy. So sometimes not necessarily recycling is, solving all the issues. I think there's certainly the risk you talked about, but I think there's also more likely the risk. For example, we are surrounded by these thousands of asteroids, and it's not even like if, it's like when, and that's how all the dinosaurs got wiped out. Right? So I think that is also very, very important reason that we need to have a second home for human settlement, for literally safety and habitat. Yeah, right, exactly. And with the current modernization, then we have another 2 billion people in the next 20 years with all the modernization, we just need the energy. And with all the government right now implement like by 2025, 2030, there need all electronic cars. But I think people only see the front end, they don't use these combustion engine. But at the back end, you need to build all these charging stations. You need all the batteries. Where the mineral come from? You need to continue digging, right? And that's a really good question. So we have our Earth planet has been exploring, right? Yet we have these millions, trillions tons of minerals, like untouched in the space. So there are also a lot of ethnic discussion that is that asset for us to go to space and mine. But I think we need to look at the question almost like the other way. Is it really moral that we continue to explore the only planet with none life so far and leave the vast assets out there untouched? I think it's time to give our Earth time to breathe and to heal.
It's so beautiful. It's so true. I know it's painful when I think about what they're doing on Earth. Stripping its minerals. And we have a friend of ours.
I'd love to invite you. Are you here for Christmas, for the holidays?
I'm here
You're
Christmas.
here?
I do 27th. I want to.
Okay. We're having Christmas Eve, a dinner party here.
Oh, wow.
Come.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you. One of the gentlemen, friends that will be here,
He's actually Kyle's previous cameraman. He worked with a nonprofit or humanitarian organization in Bali, or somewhere, don't quote me, working, like capturing the stories of miners. And it's so sad. We saw it, you know, and it's like people were down there, like their lungs, like they're breathing all of this. It's just literally like, it's like what I was telling you at the beginning of the conversation. It's like you hear about what's going on in the world, but then until you meet someone that has gone, has been affected by policy or by the lack of better business, like business. You know, they are subject to old practices, and some of them are super, super sad. And so anyway, you'll get to meet him and we can talk to him more about it because it's one of these areas that he cares so much about.
Thank you.
So that breaks my heart, but you know, it's wonderful what you're doing, but I'm curious, like what percentage, like could you help us, me and the audience understand? So how much of the Earth's minerals are being mined in Earth, and then how much is this whole astro mining industry growing? Like what are the percentages right now? Yeah.
Oh, so right now it's totally disproportionate because astro mining is still on very early phase, and actually predominantly the government and the company are more first focused on the moon mining because that is more immediate. And you know, right now when we travel to the space, obviously if it's low Earth orbit or you know or geo.
Have you been to outer space?
Not yet. I
Okay,
wish.
let me know when you're going. Okay, keep going.
Yes. I'm on the queue. So one of the issue is it's like right now if we travel to California, can you imagine we take a car but bring the entire gas we need. It's too heavy, right? That's what exactly happening. Right now the rocket take all the gas they need to travel to space. And that's why the rocket is so heavy. It's also more expensive and maybe not as safe. And if we have industrial base in the moon, where you have a lot of great resource, like to start with is lunar ice. Because
ice?
Yeah, there's 600 million ton lunar ice because that can be treated water and can separate hydrogen and oxygen and to generate fuel through that. And there's also a very rare earth material called helium-3, where you can use that for fusion power. So when people talk about space, talk about mining, people probably don't realize how different the space mining compared to our traditional mining, because there won't be atmosphere for us to burn the coal or anything. It has to be the energy source is very, very different. So to answer your question, right now I would say 99.9999 of the resource we have is through traditional mining. The industry is literally just starting. Even for the entire space ecosystem, the space mining is a deep tech. It's not like the space. You have the space for Earth, like all the satellite observation, and then you have the space for space. That's the space mobility, and then you have the deep space, which is require all other sector to be mature and create an ecosystem in order for space mining to take off as well. But for example, we just talked about to build industrial base in the moon. That is actually quite imminent. That is within the next 5 years. You will see commercial activity in the moon, and then. On the other hand, there are few space mining companies that has raised very, very large chunk of capital. Yeah, the one based in Singapore, Coasm, they raised like 100 million for the astro mining.
Really?
Yeah, so they are receiving a lot of tractions for sure. But compared to traditional mining, there's still a long way to go. And I do hope the traditional mining community will actually realize that. And they can,
That's the future.
yeah, they can put a chunk of their investment into space mining. People might like, oh, this is like 10, 20, 30 years, but people don't realize if you want to build a proper mine on the Earth with the current
compliance, regulation, permission, everything. A large corporate might take 20 years. So yeah, to make it fully run and functional, so it's actually in comparison, Asteroid is not that far. So if we just bring more awareness to the general public and to the large institutions and companies who have a lot of capital to spend, and then the whole process will run a lot faster. Yeah.
So your company, when that you're starting a crypto company, mining, does it bridge this gap? Is there like a special incentive model for onboarding traditional mining companies? Because often it's a power thing, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same conversation with sustainable energy, right? It's like one of my mentors before crypto and everything, I almost went into politics, but didn't. And I had this wonderful mentor, his name's Joel Siegel. Shout out to Joel Siegel. He amazing. He actually walked me through Capitol Hill and introduced me to all the secretaries and stuff. But I decided I wasn't assumed. But one thing he taught me, I'll never forget, because he's the original writer of what became the Green New Deal in the United States. Changed several times, right? But the first version he wrote, he told me one time, he goes, like, how do you transition? It's a big question.
Yeah.
Like, how do you transition from traditional fossil fuels to other forms of green energy? Like, how do you do it?
Correct.
Because like what you were saying earlier, it's
Yeah.
a few people on the planet that own everything and they control everything.
Correct.
So you can argue all day, all night, it's better for the planet, it's better for us, it's better for health, but it comes down to money. It comes down to power.
Yeah.
So something he told me, he goes, you have to lobby basically the owners or their people, right? Because they always have people that actually run their business. And so you have to give them a piece of the pie, right? Like there has to be a plan for them to not lose their money,
Of course.
And so I'm just curious, kind of thinking out loud, like if your company, doing crypto, space mining company you're starting, has like a way of bringing them into it and then like an off-board, on-board plan, because they can choose to invest. But in the meantime, what happens?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do they stop? How do they shut down their minds? Or maybe to your point, buy. Either some kind of buy, something in the outer space, fill Earth again to save it. And like, I don't know, like how does that, like have you thought about it?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have, like, I don't know, like what are your thoughts on that?
That's a really, really good question. So the company I have right now still in Web 2, where my role is to identify the best companies in the space sector, particularly space mining, and then connect with the right capital, with the right risk appetite. However, as I mentioned before, I do find the issue with all the challenging currently is it's a high barrier of entry for most retail investors. And actually most retail investors is not even well informed, right? And secondly, and then on the flip side, is for the scientist, for the engineer, for the entrepreneur, they're seriously lacking early stage funding, right? So they are competing with a few large aerospace giants. And then the whole industry is become very, very monopolized. And then on the other hand, if you talk about VC, yes, the VC won't invest into the space, but their investment horizon may be 7 years, maybe 10 years. So they cannot invest into early stage either.
Right.
So the entire ecosystem is just super inefficient. So investors cannot come in, the companies cannot get capital, everything very monopolized and very, very bureaucratic. And most companies, the startup just survive under a lot of government grants, but that also pull them away from what they actually want to do, right? So to answer your question, and that's why I'm starting exploring that the crypto, where you have a DAO and you have also a working group where not only just the crypto experts, but also, for example, like the mining companies, they actually have a lot to contribute because they are very, because at the end, the Earth or asteroid, they might have different formation, but there's a lot of things which you can take reference, and they understand how the commodity market works. Because for us to trade the mineral out of asteroid, you need to give a price as well, right? In order to obtain finance as well. Because if you look at right now, the mining space, it's not like, oh, it's just a company to explore, to mine. You have the entire ecosystem. Someone to mine, someone to finance, someone to do feasibility studies, someone to further selling the mining rights, because exploration and mining is taking very different expertise. So I do find these companies, they have a long-term interest if right now they actually start to invest into some of their growth capital into the new space mining. And also, a lot of traditional mining companies are under a lot of scrutiny by the banks, by the financier, by the banks. And right now, they all ranked from how blue their assets are, from brown to green, you know. And I think a lot of them also under pressure to invest into something more sustained. But they probably just don't realize. So the entire DAO, in my head, how it works is, so the DAO will be the decentralized organization to allow the token holder, by purchase a token, they will have the access to a lot of early stage deal flows. But these deal flows are screened by experts, the working group like the space scientist, as well as the commodity experts. So you have both traditional mining experts, but also the space experts. And you know, you have the crypto expert to make sure the whole ecosystem works. And then everyone can vote which project eventually they decide to invest. And with that, and then we can issue a particular NFT to further require or attract funding for this particular project.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you described a company
Yeah.
that Master Ventures already has designed, like everything you just said. But for the crypto space, it's called Commonwealth. Lay off the British Commonwealth.
Yeah.
You know? It's Commonwealth. It's
Yes.
The wealth common to common.
Yes.
But the project, I actually did the branding of my previous company that I shut down. So very similar to what you're talking about, but for crypto early stage investments that, just like in the traditional space, is usually set aside for the top like 0.1% of the population, right? You have to have like $500,000 just to even sit at the table, just to even get the opportunity, you know? And seeing that this is not right, it doesn't allow, I mean, crypto is basically like the biggest wealth transfer, like it is historically one of the biggest wealth transfers in the world.
Yeah.
And how are we, like, it was designed to redistribute and to make things more fair and for the people. So, but what Master Ventures have noticed, for Commodities, it's his baby, is that actually crypto was just reproducing the same thing that we see traditional finance. And so to change it up, kind of like Robin did the app, you know, the concept is Kyle with all of his friends, these are all like at the top VCs in the crypto space, basically incentivize them to bring their top, you know, tier deal flow to the project and make it accessible to the 99%. And this would allow everyone to invest $50, whatever, they can invest, and they buy an NFT, what you're saying, and they would get, you know, like a cut from that project's like revenue generation, right? So very, very interesting. And the deal flow is also scrutinized or validated, right? It's done by all these top, like different VCs that are personally invested in the success of the project. So they have really high standards on what they invest in, right? So anyway, very similar model. to what
Yeah.
you're describing.
Very similar ideology.
Yeah, and it's the infrastructure, it's the tech.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to know if you could just like license tech and use it because that's just what they're designing, like the CEO, we'll talk about it later, but like the CEO and everything, the whole team are like top, like the CEO built architect, like teamwear, like top people. So anyway, very, very interesting.
Yeah, I'm very interested. I mean, at the end of the day, my strong pursuit is in the space sector, right?
Yeah.
And I would love to partner with someone like crypto expertise. Because at the end, I think, you know, the entire smart contract, the technology, how to run it, you know, it's just so much better than recreating the wheel, right? It's so much better to have the partnership and have the common ideology to make it democratized as like commonwealth.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Okay, one question, well, 2 more questions. I know we have to run soon, but a question on, it's not so much a question, but it's more like a question of advice. So like, it's obviously a women's empowerment podcast. There's gonna be a lot of smart women, mothers, just young women, you know, like what's in your heart or your mind, like if you could share some advice from your lessons learned as, you know, beautiful, powerful woman in this world, like what would you say?
Yeah, really, really connect to your power. We don't have to competing with our male colleagues or male peer because we have so different quality. Just bring that unique quality out, and then there is already value out. So I really strongly believe to tap into our own resource and not afraid to present the feminine part of ourselves. Because I think for very, very long, I have been always trying to fit in as well. I trying to maybe speak like my male peer, trying to act like them. But you know, at the end of the day, if I've been very tough with them, they were saying, oh, they were. I mean, if I were a man, I would not receive the same comments, same feedback. So I eventually realized, and also that doesn't make me happy because, yes, they need certain masculine to get certain things done. But actually, in very long time, I forgot my feminine power. And actually, I have a lot more different power. Yes. And I feel that if one can tap into that, and that's already is like a win, particularly when you are in an industry which is probably more male dominant than the female. Yeah.
I agree with that. Beautiful. And then what advice as it pertains to being a strong, powerful woman in a dating relationship, romantic relationship? Like, what have you learned about what's important when dating? And I say that because in all my conversations, and I know you'd probably say the same, one of my friends said it best. She goes, as a woman, you kind of morph, you like adapt to the man that you're dating. They impact you so much. These women, you're designed to like want to take care, serve. Like for me anyway, I'm super alpha. I'm single. The minute, like the babe, because like all of a sudden, it's like I find myself like very like wanting to serve and wanting to take care, But then I have a call, business call. She's like, I switch, and I'm all of a sudden very like, but it's like what advice or what comes to mind? Because it's like whatever comes to mind right now, that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
So it's what comes to you right now as it pertains to being authentic and strong, being feminine, but being authentic.
Yeah.
Like it's the right word.
Yeah.
Like as it pertains to relationships.
Yeah.
Like what would you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I think the most important for me is to choose the right partner, and because as a strong woman, and we should choose someone who really give us space and allow us to be who we are, and also generally support us. Because like what you said, we female is like water, depending
Yes.
on what is container shape. We just adapt.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons, right? And in a way, we sometimes so immersed in a relationship, we've been lost ourselves.
Yeah.
Or if the partner we are with, they are not secure enough. And that's where you can see that's actually where withhold your growth. And at the end, we are the average of the 5 people we spend most time with. Yeah, and the partner you choose, clear you spend like significant time with. And I think choosing the partner is really, really important. And also believe that you are good enough, right?
That's so good.
Yes, because sometimes we may be compromised. We're like, oh, maybe we want too much, right?
Yeah.
We want someone maybe also spiritual, echo who we are, but also tentative, and also, also we share the same energy, same human. But at the end, we deserve that because that's what we bring to the world, and we deserve someone who matches with us. So I really think choosing the right partner is the most important first. The most important. Everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah. But how do you know you found the right?
I think you will feel it.
You will feel it.
Yes,
Yeah.
you will feel it.
I think you said it also. I'm just gonna say from your own words. I feel like you also know
Yeah.
based on how you become,
Yeah.
based off of what you just said. Like, if he gives you space, right? If he supports you,
Yeah.
and wants to hear about your ideas.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's not so much of like, so maybe he's very busy, right? So he doesn't sit down so much, but like he supports you, like
Yes.
what you're doing, he gives you space to be who you're designed to be. You will become more of yourself,
Yeah.
and that's a sign
Yeah.
that you found the right one. Yeah.
Create this safe space for you. And you don't feel that you need to restrain yourself to share your ideas because he might think this is like, give you constructive feedback as well. Right?
Yeah.
And I think this is quite most important in my view.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think you found the right partner.
Yeah, I know. It's like if I could turn the camera, you would see what our house is like. It's such like it's like a house, but an office and a studio. Like we're in the same vibe,
Yeah.
Make content, work, but we love it.
Yeah, I love the fact that I come in, then he help you set up, then he go to the space to enable for
To my
myself.
office. I was like, let's switch places. Yeah. Well, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much. I've been
Thank you.
so
Thank you,
looking
Bella.
forward to this conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.